Good morning, good evening, and good night, everybody. My name is Sarah, and today we are doing the video that I've been putting off for quite a while. Series I need to finish. Now, I kind of have been putting it off just for the fact of, you can see all the books I haven't read yet behind me, and so I'm always like, I should probably get to these before I continue on with the series I want to read. But these are books and stories that I have started and I don't know the ending of. And so all of these are just series that I need to catch up on, stories I need to finish, and I really want to get to these eventually. I just have no idea when. So, with that all being said, let's dive on in. Series number 1 is kind of no surprise if you've been watching my more recent videos, and that is the Renegade series. I have read book number 1. Book 2 is out. I'm trying to get it for my birthday so desperately, and then book 3 is coming out in the relative future. So I cannot wait till I get to read book 2. By the time that happens, book 3 will come out, and I will have my hands on it, and I cannot wait because the story just seems so interesting, and I need it. Like I mentioned before, the Renegades follows the story of a super-powered filled society. The age of anarchy has passed, villains have been suppressed, and now the heroes are reigning supreme. Our main character, however, was raised by the villains, and she is tasked to go infiltrate the superhero society to try and figure out how to bring them down and bring the age of anarchy back. Like I said, I loved the first book. I know book 2 deals a lot with the romance subplot. Not looking forward to that, but hopefully that will just be like over and done with, and so we can move on to book 3. I'm going off of what I know and what my friends have told me because they're all like obsessed with this series, and I need to catch up with it so I can talk to them about this. And I've mentioned this before, I love series and I love books that like deal with the concept of the third road, which is like, oh yeah, there's a path of villainy and there's a path of good, but there's that middle option that it's never really explained well enough, and it just, I know this series is going to walk down that third road, and I cannot wait because I love that concept, and I really hope it's done right. So yeah, I need to finish this series, or at very least I need to catch up with it because I cannot wait. Series number 2, The Gentleman Bastards. Book 1 is The Lies of Locke Lamora. This is sort of an adult fantasy book that I fell in love with. This book was brought to my attention by a booktuber, and they kept bringing it up, and eventually I come caved and I read it, and it's like amazing, and I need to like catch up and finish with this series because The Lies of Locke Lamora deal with this child who was basically raised to be a thief, and he's one of the best thieves in his land, and like his thievery gets him like involved with like a bunch of different politics and stuff, and eventually like the city recognizes like, oh, it's this idiot. And it's so cool. And then like the religious factor of these books is like, I can't remember the number, but there's like these 12 gods, and like Locke Lamora and like all his like people that he grew up believe in the 13th god, which is like the god of thievery, the god of the underworld, which no one wants to admit exists, but they're all like, it's definitely in the pantheon. Like no one talks about him, but he's definitely there. And so a lot of his like motivation is like, he grew up in this church that's dedicated to the 13th god, and it's so interesting, and I love it, and like the heist and the planning is just, the one problem I have with it is that it seems to go off without a hitch, and that's never a good sign. So I'm hoping when I get to like the next book in the series, like things start to like, oh, you're not as smart as you think you are, and I cannot wait because it just, it seems so cool. Series number 3 is that series name I cannot pronounce, but the first book is The Serpent Secret. Now, this one is sort of this middle grade Indian-inspired mythology book, and it deals with this child who believed that she was human for the longest time until one day her parents got kidnapped, and the princes from another dimension show up at her house, and they're like, hey, we need to take you back to our dimension. You can find your parents there, but there's some stuff going down. You need to be there. You're like the lost princess of like the Serpent King, and he's doing some stuff, and you need to be there for it. And I read the first book, and I was just so in love with it. I need book 2, and there's only 3, and the third one's out already. So as soon as I get book 2, I'm going to go out and get book 3, and hopefully I want to love this series as much as I love the first book. Series number 4 is The Gallagher Girls. This is sort of, again, is middle grade. I really have been liking middle grade books recently. But The Gallagher Girls is the story of this boarding school that to the world is super just exclusive. Like only the very select people can get in. When in reality, they're actually a boarding school to train female spies. Like they're brought in from a young age, they're scouted throughout the country, and they're brought to this boarding school, and they're like they just do all the spy stuff. Like, and these kids are like so young, they're like middle school, high school age, and they're just being trained and to be like the best of the best. And it's so cool, and I love it. And I'm making my way through the series, but it is taking me a while because I don't have all the books, but I love it so much, and I need to catch up with this series. Next series I need to finish is the Irish Country series. This, I've only read the first book, and I've started the second book, but it is all about this doctor who goes off into the Irish country, and it's just his experience from moving it from city life into country life, the crazy and weird people he meets there, and like the relationships he builds along the way. And I loved the first book. It very much deals with like, oh, this is so out of place. Like, the Irish country is so weird to this person because he's never experienced life like that before. And he just, the way the characters grow and adapt, it's so interesting, and I cannot wait to catch up with this series because there are a lot of books, and I have the next book. I haven't gotten around to reading it yet, but I cannot wait. Series number 6 is the Abhorsen series. This series has Sabriel, Clariel, the Abhorsen, which for some reason is book 3, but it's named after the series, I don't know. But it deals with this world where death isn't absolute. There's a certain number of gates you have to pass in order to pass on, and you can be retrieved from these gates as long as you don't go past number 6. And there's people like the necromancers who like use this like for the bad stuff, and then there's the Abhorsen who keeps peace and order with the dead and the land, and it's so cool and it's so interesting. And then there's like this place, like the map of the world, there's like this wall, and on one side of the wall magic works, on the other side it does not. And it's so fascinating just the way that this dynamic is built up between the dead and the living and the magical and the non-magical. It's so cool, and I love it. And I know book 2 was kind of a letdown, but I really enjoyed book 3. Cannot wait to get to number 4. I need to catch up and finish this series. Series number 7 is one of the original things I talk about on this channel, and that is the Stainless Steel Rat. This series has so many books in it, like kind of a ridiculous amount, to the point where I'm like, I'm not even sure if I'm able to catch up and finish this series. And I love it so much, and it's this classic, and I mean classic. So it's very much like the early sci-fi stigma towards women and stuff, but I mean, all the women are so like, they're so cool in this book. Like, honestly, ignore the narrator, they're amazing. But it deals with the Stainless Steel Rat, Slippery Jim, who is like the best thief in the galaxy. He's been avoiding the government for years. Like, they've been crushing out all the crimes and rats of society. The only ones to remain are the Stainless Steel Rats, which is like himself and a couple others. And it's so cool because it goes through his thought process and like what he does for a heist. And here's the thing though, the government ends up catching up with him, and they're like, we want to hire you. And that's like the huge part of the series, is him working as a criminal for the government. And it's so cool. And like, I know there's some sexism in it, but honestly, again, like I said, all the girls in there are like so powerful and so epic. Just ignore the narrator's opinion, like I said before. And I love this series, and I need to catch up on it. And I own like the next 2 books. I haven't read them yet. I need to, because I used to love this series so much, and for some reason I stopped reading it. And the last series I have to talk about is the Crazy Rich Asians series. I read the first 2 books, and book 3 I'm hopefully going to finish in the relative near future. Hopefully, maybe, but I mentioned this before, and again, I will keep talking about it, but the Crazy Rich Asians series deals with this girl who is she's dating this nice guy whose family's from Singapore, and he's like, hey, I want to take you home to meet my family. One of my cousins is getting married. Can I take you to her wedding as my +1? And from there, she realizes, like, not only is this boy that she's dating rich, he's like ridiculously rich. He's crazy rich. Never been the hugest fan of the plot structure of this book, especially book number 2, because it doesn't deal so much with their main character. It's more of like, what shenanigans can these characters get into with all their wealth that they just have no regards for. And I love it. It's stupid and it's crazy, and it's just like, if you had all the money in the world, what would you do with it? And it does such a really interesting character dive, and I cannot wait to get to the last book of the series and finish it, because that's what I need to do. So yeah, that is it. Thank you guys all so much for watching. If you liked this video and have any recommendations on which series I should push up to the forefront of this list and hopefully finish first, please leave that down in the comment section down below. And while you're there, don't forget to like and subscribe. And as always, good night, good evening, and good morning, everybody.